Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eric, for that wonderful introduction. I do want to say thank you to Veronica and Emmanuel for starting us off with that wonderful performance with some of their own musical pieces and some music from other composers that have inspired them. It was really wonderful. Thank you, Frederica King, for presenting the Harmony exhibition. This was such a wonderful thing to be a part of. It was my absolute pleasure to curate this show, assisted by Eric Grau. Thank you so much, Eric, for this opportunity. Thank you to Kamal as well for guiding me through the internship, and Frederica King as well, and Herbie, who's here. Thank you, Herbie, for everything. It's such a wonderful team to work with. And thank you to my artists who have joined me today. These are two exhibiting artists in the show. We have DaNice D Marshall, who's painting her song People is right on the wall over here, which is fantastic. Thank you for showing with us. And Philip Gerstein, whose 3 abstract pieces are on the back wall of the Teresa India Young Room. He is showing the minstrel show Intermission, Lightness of Being, and the Day of Singing. So thank you so much both for being in the show and for joining us here today. So to start us off, I want to give you both a chance to speak on how your individual pieces fit into the Harmony exhibition. So here in the show, we're exploring the bridge between music, sound, and visual art. So I'd love to hear about your perspective on how your work kind of fits into that theme. DaNice, would you like to start?
Sure. I believe my piece fits in because if you look on the blackboard, it's actual musical notes. And I painted them, and I thought that the song is People by Barbra Streisand, which was a really important song for my mom. And I wasn't sure. I came to the jazz show, and the pianist got up, and I said, "Are these notes right?" And he walked over, and he said, "Mm-hmm." And I said, "Oh my goodness, I got it right." And so that's how my mind fits in. But
I didn't know about this show at all, the call for the show. And then a very good friend of mine sent me an announcement the last day. And I looked at it and said, wow, art and music. Well, on my website, right on the homepage is, let me read from this, partially. I say, these paintings that you're going to see arise from my perception and use of color as a vital, intense, electric, animating force. And then it says, you may be tempted to consider them in musical terms. Color, movement, interval, balance, direction, duration. You need not resist that temptation. So I jumped at the opportunity, and there are 3 pieces right there.
Wonderful, thank you. And Philip, I'd actually like to talk a little bit more about the creative process behind your pieces. Because in this show, we're so lucky to have a range of work, and especially in 2D work, we have kind of a range between realistic and figurative depictions, and also these really abstract images that might represent sound or a specific song or some type of mood invoked by music. So I would love if you could kind of take us through your process in thinking about how you kind of selected the shapes and the forms that you're working with in your pieces, and if those were inspired by any particular music.
Well, I guess firstly, I never paint without music. The way I've explained this to people is basically my mind deals with the music, and the rest of me is then feels free to paint. But that's just half the story, obviously, because what music is the most direct of all the arts. It literally vibrates you. You feel it through with your whole body. I mean, there is nothing more direct than that, truly. So, Can you see some of the paintings in the alcove and the back wall? If you see just one or something. I painted several abstract modes. It's like I speak more than one language, so I speak more than one abstract painting language. And back in, I think, 2016, I kind of embraced, finally, I was able to find my way into minimal art as well. So I call that word post-minimal, because it's usually, to me, it's a little more loaded, a little more movemental than the classic minimal art that was developed in the 60s to 70s. And to me, minimal art is about the interval. The whole thing is interval. So when I was thinking about the show, the work that I have in there, I was thinking how interval is what organizes just about all information, right? It depends, it comes in packets and pauses in between. Same with music. Almost the same with anything we create. It's about interval pause that defines what the object is, the space in between, otherwise there is no object, clearly. So each of the pieces has its own rhythm due to the interval. And of the three pieces, if you look at them more closely later on, or you could run it right now. If you look at usually it was particularly exciting to me. It's called lightness of being, because usually you work with white in the background, or oftentimes, and that defines the rest of the colors, defines the space, defines what's behind the color. It's all translucent. But this one, the interval is beige. It's not. It's off-white, and that changed every color, and made there's a certain excitement that came through it that is rather unusual for the paintings. So that's an example of what happens in abstract artwork like that.
Thank you so much, Bella. That was great to have that window into your process. And DaNice, I'd also like to discuss your process now. And you were so generous to join me on Friday for an interview as well, where we also discussed your process. But I'd love to kind of get back into that and thinking about your body of work as a whole. You often paint with figures, representing figures, and they very oftentimes have these large, bright, beautiful smiles that we can all see in this painting here too. Almost as if they were laughing or belting out a song. So I'd love to hear you kind of comment on like the significance of expressions of joy and utilizing the smile in your work.
A lot of people know my story. Some people don't. My story is 2016. I became deathly ill, and they told me to go home and do nothing after 28 days in the hospital. But I got better. I didn't die. And so I started painting abstracts, which for me, I was just watching paint dry, paint over it, watch it dry, and it was just go on and on. Eventually I said, no, I'm gonna try to paint something else. And I painted myself, and I thought, oh, okay. And I felt comfortable with it. There was a part of me, because I'm a writer, a born writer, part of me that when I lost my hearing, I couldn't write anymore. And I said, okay, now I'm gonna paint. And I'm going to tell my stories that I can no longer write by painting. And the story that was very important to me was people. I love people. I love meeting people. I love the way people, when I walk into a room, if I smile at you, you're going to smile back at me. We're going to communicate. And so I carried that forward. But then the pandemic happened. So by 2019, I'm painting portraiture art. And now I flipped it a little bit, and I said, I just want to paint happy moments. Because that's what I wanted to remember. My life had become so sad for me that I wanted to uplift myself. And at the same time, uplift people that were viewing it. And I wanted to remind people, we're connected. We're all connected, and it's important to remember that. Pandemic happens, and afterwards, after being like this, no one could see anyone smile. I wanted that. I wanted that to show. And so all my work, basically from that moment forward, is people smiling and joy and being happy. And that's where that came from.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I think we all feel the joy that you're trying to communicate there. Yes, definitely. So thank you for both discussing your process with us. That was amazing. So going back to thinking about the Harmony exhibition as a whole and kind of the mixing and the intersection of visual arts and sound, I want to talk a little bit about your perspective on the sensory experience of viewing these works and how the experience for the viewer kind of changes when there's two artistic influences at play, when we're having these two mediums come together. So for you two, it's having the song meeting your painting. How does that kind of differ for you or for the viewer as opposed to a painting that's separate from music or not influenced by another medium?
Because I too paint with music. Like that's the only way I'm gonna paint. And unfortunately for my husband, I listen to musicals. And so I have played Hamilton a zillion, trillion, million times. But I don't hear it anymore. I am really influenced by the music. It's in me. It's one. It becomes one. I think like if we lose, like I lost my hearing in one side. So I think now my other senses are heightened, but at the same time they also come together, which is a perfect title for this gallery, for this exhibition, Harmony, because I don't think they work individually from one another. So I think my point is, and I think Felipe might agree, is that the painting and the music, they go together. They just naturally seem to go together. Whether we as humans want to admit that or not, I don't know. I know I can't sing, but if I could, I would sing. I would be singing right now, but I can't. So the music becomes the painting, and the painting becomes the music.
Well, maybe we should intellectualize this just a little bit. If that's okay with you guys.
Yes.
I've been writing, it's going to be a third year for this online magazine, and I wrote about these pieces, and I found a very interesting quote, which has to do with music as one of the arts. And the quote is from someone by the name of Walter Pater, 19th century, well-known critic and writer. And he is, hold on a sec.
Okay.
I'm fine. So he has this famous dictum. Can you hear me better? Okay. All art constantly aspires to the condition of music. And that's quite a claim. But people don't know the complete quotation. I sort of went back to his 1877 article and read it, and it's rather interesting how he justifies this. Anyway, so if I may, all art constantly aspires to the condition of music. It is the art of music which most completely realizes this artistic ideal, this perfect identification of form and matter. In its ideal consummate moment, the end is not distinct from the means, the form from the matter, the subject from the expression. They inhere in and completely saturate each other. Sounds true. And then he sets like a high bar for aesthetic criticism based on this. Music then, and not poetry, as is so often supposed, is the true type or measure of perfected art. The art may be represented as continually struggling after the law and principle of music to a condition which music alone completely realizes. And one of the chief functions of aesthetic criticism is to estimate the degree to which each of those products approaches, in this sense, to musical law. That is quite a plain. Interesting quote, right? Yeah. So, to me, music is divided like into well, into two parts, very roughly. Music with words and music without words. Because words, text, adds so much for us humans that is, can be separate from music itself completely. While music without words can become so abstract, and it still moves us in ways that text does not, in ways, or can only approach them. One could say the same as with painting, but then one of the differences for which I love painting is music is a temporal medium. Once it's gone, it's gone. The previous musical phrase is in the past. The painting is all there. That is a huge difference. And the other huge difference for me is color. As direct as music vibrates our body, color does it indirectly. It's like soaks into your mind, and then the combination of colors that keeps changing. That keeps changing with lighting. I'm very grateful for Eric for having installed LED lights here just in May. I understand. Yet when I first saw how they installed my work, it was just a joy. It was they gave me a separate wall, and it feels like the whole alcove is filled with this reflected, combination of colors, harmony of colors. So from that, you can derive what I'm thinking about in terms of difference between music and painting.
Well, Philip, I just wanted to say, when you were talking about that, I was thinking when you're working and you're listening to music and you're working with paint or on a sculpture, so more three-dimensionally, it feels like the process of you making it is the temporal, in the moment, it's like music, but of course it stays. It doesn't, like a dance performance is the time that it's there. But I think that the thing about music, so what you said, I think is true, but I think while you're creating it, the music is informing, and the music is in flow, and your work is in flow. I think but it's here afterwards. But I think music kind of opens you up and makes you have, as you make connections that you wouldn't do. It's like when you're walking and your mind opens up and expands. Music does that too, I think. When you're, a lot of people.
So walking meditation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and thank you for bringing up that discussion as well. I very much agree. I mean, from hearing both of you discuss the way that music finds its way into your work and into your paintings, it really seems like it all kind of comes together as one, and there's not so much of a separation for you guys. So I'd love to hear about kind of the process of painting with music, since that's something you said you both do while you paint, is you listen to music and let that kind of guide the piece. So I'm wondering, what is it like to select the music that you're going to present in your work? Is it just something that you already have on while you're painting, or is it maybe a tune that has stuck out to you in the past, or maybe you have a personal connection to it? How do you go about selecting that music that is going to be portrayed in the work?
Once upon a time, I saw an open call, and it specifically said that the piece you make must be produced listening to this specific John Coltrane song. I love John Coltrane, so it wasn't that far-fetched for me. But this particular song was a lot of drums that seemed a little disjointed, because some of their work can be a little like boom, 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 boom. I didn't like it, and so I didn't submit to that call because I couldn't do it. So for me, the music I listen to is usually music that I have listened to before. I very rarely will I find a new piece of music to use when I'm painting. Usually the process is I'm going to paint, what do I want to hear while I paint? It's never reversed. but the music becomes an intricate part of the painting because I've selected it in that way. It's been chosen, sort of like an adopted child, you know? It's like, I chose you to be part of this, and now this beautiful thing comes out of it. So for me, that's part of the whole process.
In my studio, I have a pretty large collection of CDs. People who've been to my studio know of all kinds. There's a big section of African music, actually West African primarily, and actually mostly Malian. It's an amazing musical nation, just unbelievable. Traditional instruments and contemporary instruments as well. Some classical, some cutting edge jazz. So my cutting edge jazz friends are here, actually, that I listen to. I don't know, I come to my studio, I choose something that I think would fit me, my state right now. And usually it has some surprise with the music. When I paint, it disappears music and then reappears. And it becomes part of the same process that I use in painting itself, which is I do not decide beforehand what it's going to look like and then execute it. I find it in the painting, and then it changes and I respond. So music becomes this collaborator, very important.
Thank you, that was really wonderful to hear. So in being in the Harmony exhibition and seeing your work in conversation with all of these other pieces that are exploring the relationship between art and music, how has the relationship between those two mediums either changed or maybe been enhanced by you being a part of this exhibition?
I love that you put it in that space, in that wall. So having that alcove just kind of brought me joy. So I shared it with a number of people. I think they're sharing the same feeling.
For me, I always think it's interesting how a show is curated. I always want to know, like, what made the curator select what pieces they got and where they place them, and whether it was just the colors that carried forth. And so, of course, colors are musical notes, right? So you have orange, that's like a trumpet, you know, that's like a fierce sound. Saxophone for me is kind of blue, you know? And so I look around and I see the flow of colors. So I think I just felt a certain way, and it was enhanced as I walked into the space. So as a curator, you curated it. Eric, so you did a good job. Well done, bravo. And it just all is harmony. Nothing's clashing, nothing's fighting against anything at all. It's just like Felipe said, it just all seems very peaceful when you walk in and you feel joy. It's good. Oh, you got more.
Yeah, I found many shows actually, and this is very well done show. Wonderfully arranged. I love the music boxes. If you haven't yet listened to the two boxes there with musical performance inside. Barbara Trachtenberg's work, DaNice's, the backlit pieces, definitely don't miss them. It's a very, very interesting show.
Yeah, good job.
Well, thank you so much for that. I do just have one more question for you guys. So one key component of the Harmony exhibition is that we are kind of focusing on the history of the Piano Craft Guild building, which is the building that we are located in now, as it was once a piano factory and now it is a residential building. And for a period of time between the 70s and 2000, it was subsidized artist housing. And it remains, it has disappeared, yes. It remains an artist community today. A lot of artists choose to live and work in this building to kind of keep that community up and running, but they don't enjoy the same benefits that they once had. But in thinking of that, thinking of community, I would love to hear where you two find your artist community.
Because I'm fairly new to the art community, I kind of just flow. Just everywhere I go, I know people having a great time, enjoying my journey. But I know that art creates community. Community does not create art, I don't believe. I believe that if you're creative and you come into a room with other creatives, you form a community. One thing I will say about Boston, I just recently found out that they have a program where artists can receive housing certificates. Housing certificates in the city of Boston for artists, so that it subsidizes your workspace or your lived workspace if they're combined. I just found out about it a couple of days ago. It's something. It's I know. I read the walls. I walked around and read the walls and learned the history of the piano factory. It's a fascinating story. It's sad in that those people were displaced, but in the same time, there's evolution. Things always evolve and things always change, and they must change. They must. So I'm not sad about that, but I'm happy that there's creatives here and that they are very actively involved in making community. And so I'm hopeful that, and I feel like this is my family. I don't really feel it as a community. It's fam. It will always be fam for me. So I think that for me, that's art creates community. I'm gonna keep making art. And so wherever I go, I'm gonna make little communities everywhere. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, I found it also fascinating about the piano factory building that before the back bay got filled in, one could just float a barge next to the porch of this building and say, well, I went below the pianos that are being made. And it's pretty fascinating. My studio is in the South End, about 3 blocks from where the galleries are, kind of thing, and the big artist building, former factory building. So part of that, of course, I have really great artist friends and musician friends, especially as well, to mention for this exhibition. And then, of course, I have some color abstractionist buddies who are doing some, who understand even deeper, perhaps, what all of us are trying to do, play with space and color, etc.
Well, thank you both for being a part of our community here. We're very lucky to have you. And thank you for sitting down with me today for this discussion. I'm very appreciative of your time and your thoughtful answers. Once again, this is DaNice Marshall and Philip Gerstein. Thank you both for being here. And thank you all for attending the closing of the Harmony Show. Like I said, this was such an amazing thing to be a part of. So before we close up and take it down, please walk around, appreciate what's here. Take a look at the history of the building, which is on that back wall and above the piano in the back there. And again, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Virginia and Eric.
Thank you.